Good morning, it's Gemma. It's day 49 of the oak tree sit spot. I think it's about 6 o'clock in the morning. It's only just got light. I love the darker mornings. I love getting up in the dark and working. Yeah, I thought I'd just show you these rose hips where the dog rose was, and these lovely vibrant red berries. This is I call it the threshold into the woods. And of course changes with the seasons. So let's go. Yeah, as usual, I'm thinking I've got so much reading to do and so much of this and that. How am I going to get the energy to do it all if I go for a walk and see the woods? But the thing I'm coming to realise is that coming here actually gives me energy. Just like laying on my yoga mat, doing restorative yoga for an hour or two, that just gives me the energy to get things done. And I'm determined not to become one of these busy people, but it does take me longer, I think, than the average person to process information because of my OCD and how it affects my brain chemistry. Yeah, we're coming to the time of year when there's cobwebs in your face a lot as you walk through the trees. I was thinking we're day 49 and I am 49 years old, about to be 50. So it's a time of much taking stock and reflection for me. This period of my life which feels as exciting and, I don't know, as if I'm finally meeting my type of people again and doing what I've spent a long time thinking about and working towards, which is this building thing. Some days I think, well, where's this come from? How is that related to my life? But it's very related in so much as I grew up terrified of indoor spaces and rooms because of the abuse I suffered at the hands of my paedophile grandfather. Terrified of being enclosed in rooms And I remember as a kid, I used to kind of sit on the toilet and there was this flowered wallpaper in my grandparents' bathroom, and I used to just kind of stare at it until it jumped out and became like 3D. It's really weird, and used to kind of lose myself in wallpaper. Anyway, yeah, so that was my childhood experience of houses, and it's somewhere I have a lot of fondness for, where I grew up. This was a different house where I grew up. I grew up in Birmingham. My grandparents lived in Sussex. My childhood home was equally a dangerous place, it felt, but lots of good memories as well. But ultimately it was somewhere that I wanted to get away from, escape. And then I found theatre, and for the first time I felt in the darkness of the backstage, I kind of felt safe, because I worked as a dresser, so I spent a lot of time backstage in the wings in the dark, feeling unafraid of the dark and actually embraced by the theatre space. It felt safe because it was predictable. We're doing the same shows day in, day out, and you knew who the people were. Everybody had their role in the play or whatever. And then in the next period of my life, I trained to be an integrative psychotherapist and counsellor and hypnotherapist. And as part of my hypnotherapy training, we were guided. We had to do this peer-led, like guided meditation with one of our peers. And I think it was to do with guiding somebody through a house, and it was it was kind of a real trigger, actually. It triggered my OCD, my trauma, stuff that I'd repressed and maybe forgotten, because I had this awful kind of vision of being surrounded by walls of mud and shit. Sounds awful, but it was kind of, they were like mud walls, and it was like, don't know whether it was shit or mud on the walls. Still haven't quite interpreted that, but it kind of triggered all this contamination fears, and just it was the beginning of my journey towards healing the trauma that I suffered. That's been kind of ongoing really all my life. So I was thrown back into being scared of being, I don't know, in rooms again with people. And then I that period I was very into poetry, and my writing became almost a home, somewhere again that I felt safe, somewhere I could be myself, kind of like a repository, and a container for all my thoughts, feelings and emotions. And fairly recently I did sort of like a drawing a day or painting a day, piece of art, whatever. Found myself doing a lot of geometrical art and drawing buildings, enjoying experimenting with the buildings that I had on my allotment at the time, with sort of permaculture ideas, like green roof, etc. And then I left the allotments and discovered camping and bought my first tent, and my God, that was a whole journey in itself. During the day, the tent felt like a womb, as if I was kind of going back into the womb, and I was in control of my space. But then at night time it kind of became like a prison, because it was just me and these four walls of the tent closing in almost, with my demons very much present. All the things that scare me, I don't know. It was just like being in an interrogation room. But I kind of overcame that and began my wild camping, stealth camping and campsite camping journey, which is documented on this channel, and led me to an interest in cob houses. I read a book called The Sculpted House. I'm trying to think of the name of the author now. The Hand Sculpted House, sorry. It's terrible. I've even spoken to him because the book was such a life-changing read for me. Maybe it'll come back to me in a minute. Terrible with names, sorry. But you can look that up online anyway. Interesting cob houses, and then natural building and earth building. I've done a lot of sort of online courses and research and learning, and that led me to this green building master's degree at the Centre for Alternative Technology, which is going to kind of teach me a lot about sustainability, how to help the planet and other human beings as we navigate this climate crisis. So I will be learning how to build eco-friendly houses. But then, on the other hand, there's part of me that's terrified of being made homeless by my circumstances. So it's like I've had all this really kind of tumultuous love-hate relationship with buildings all my life. And I sometimes have days when I think, why are you doing this, Gemma? This is totally kind of not related to what you've done with the rest of your life, with your music and everything. But it is actually really related, because it's creative and entrepreneurial, having to find innovative solutions to things and elements of design come into it, and I've always been interested in how buildings affect people, and that's kind of ultimately what I want to have as part of my toolbox when working with survivors of incest. Yeah, so I think the main difference between, being like an all-round artist and a green builder doing a science degree is, of course, it's subjective, whereas art can be very subjective, and I think I'm going to welcome that. I really am going to welcome that into my life right now, where, it's not emotional, it's just, it's maths and science and reasoning and everything based. So, and it's going to be hard work, but I'm not averse to that. Still in two minds about the money, but then I was thinking yesterday, with all this AI and the planet in catastrophe, with all these natural disasters and everything, we may not be here I may not even finish my degree, because by that time human beings may be redundant because of AI or dead because of nuclear war or climate crisis. So I just want to kind of not worry about that element too much. And I think when you start finding a community, a like-minded community, and people that get it, I think things kind of grow organically and opportunities arise in alignment with where you're headed. And I've got lots going on in my life, and at every turn I'm thinking, am I going to get through this? Am I going to get through that? Is this the right thing to do? Is that the right thing to do? And not having many people I can talk to about it right now. Although a lot more than I did last year at this time. So, and I've just listened to a celebration of the life of Joanna Macy, kind of like work that reconnects, online celebration. You can find it on YouTube. She's an amazing woman, and she's came into my life about 2 months ago. I've been reading her book, or books, and hearing her poetry and quotes and thoughts about trees. She had a very intimate relationship with trees and used to visit the same tree again and again, so I feel a connection there, and that really boosted me in these times where it's easy to despair and give up. And kind of, I don't need reminding of this, but it kind of underscored the importance of just coming here as often as possible, because that's what energizes and inspires me and carries me through the grueling reading schedules and my lesson planning from jazz piano student and everything really. So yeah, so that's a bit about my journey with buildings. So yeah, I don't know how long I'm going to be spending at the tree today. I've been bitten all over the back, and I suspect that was from 2 or 3 days ago when I was sitting there having a cup of tea. I was there for a good couple of hours, like I normally am when I don't have much to do in the mornings. So it might be a kind of a glancing hello and goodbye. It's just good to just check in. What was I going to say? Oh, that's enough for now. I remember what I was going to say now. Yeah, I've found myself booking the campsite in Machynlleth, I think is how you pronounce it, but everyone calls it Mac, which makes it easier. In Wales, which is in close proximity. Campsite I'm staying on is close proximity to the Centre for Alternative Technology, as I've said in my post from this morning. So I may not be seeing much of the area, the surrounding area. I know it's kind of on the south side of the Snowdonia Park, and of course I'd love to explore that, but I think I'm going to be mainly studying at the centre. Which is fine, but I'm sure I don't know, I think we might finish around about 5 in the evening. It's the beginning of September, so I'm sure I'll have a couple of hours of daylight left before bedtime. I could have stayed at the centre, but I'm going to pay half of what I would do staying there. So I'm going to save money at the campsite. It's going to be harder, you know, it might get cold, and I've got a lot of stuff to take as well as my laptop. But I thought, well, it's another opportunity to, well, it'll be an opportunity to test out to really kind of test out my new OEX3 Fox 3 tent and put something more to do with camping on my channel. Yeah, another challenge and adventure really. It's such a 6 nights. And yeah, something different from my 50th. Forgot to say that I fell in love with the architecture of Paris. That was part of my building story. Sort of ran about between 2009 and 2020. I kind of lived on and off there. Spent a lot of time there working as a musician, and just fell in love with all the buildings and everything. Anyway, lots of waffle today. Let's get to the tree. Okay, I don't know whether you can see the moon kind of to the right, top right of the oak tree here. Yeah, just gone 6:30 actually, and it's sweltering. It was 30 degrees yesterday, near enough the same today, and it will be until the weekend, I think. Because my back is sweaty with this rucksack on, it's itching like mad. I really don't want any more bites. Just steady the camera a bit, I'm gonna drop it. So yeah, I'm not really up for sitting under it for any length of time today. But I've got out with a heavy pack, done a bit of walking. As usual, I'm going to have to get as much training in as I can. It'll be the third sort of long adventure I've gone on with all my camping gear. So I'm getting used to it. I've got a big list of stuff to take, so it should be fairly straightforward to pack. A couple of things to order. I've got to get some gas, and I'm going to treat myself to meals on campus. So breakfast, lunch and dinner while I'm there. But I think the Sunday night when I arrive, I'm not going to have any, there won't be any meals provided. And then the Friday evening, same again. And I do get extra hungry when I'm carrying a lot on my back and camping, and I'm out in the fresh air a lot. So I think I might order some tent meals again. I love those. Really appreciated those in Scotland. The things, you know, they really fill you up. Here we are. I was talking about the noppergauls last video, but I never actually showed you any, so I'll try and show you what I mean here. Okay, so here we've got a reasonably healthy acorn, but then if you look on this clump of leaves, you can see that they're growing deformed, and you can see this one is sort of forming into a sort of a star shape, and it's getting really sticky. And then what happens is, pull this one off. Yeah, just wait for the camera to focus. They kind of end up looking like this, like brown and spiky, and eventually they drop off the tree. There's one here that's I don't know if the camera's going to focus or not. Yeah, it's got kind of like a deformed bit on it, and I can feel myself getting bitten just standing here. So we're just gonna say hello. As usual, it's very quiet here. A few birds nattering in the background. I just want to see if that precious stone's still here. It is, but it looks like the feather that was stuck in the bark here has been blown off, or I'm sure it's probably on the ground here somewhere. Nobody's been here. but no, I can't see it on the ground. But yeah, the stone's still very much here. I'll make sure it's in there properly. Yeah, I think that's where it's supposed to be. Could easily take it home, have it for myself, but I'm not going to. It was put there for a reason, and it's going to stay there. Say hello. Yeah, these poor plants and trees, I do worry about them and all the birds and stuff in the heat. But I think as humans I think they're probably adapting. And this year, even though it's been uncomfortable, the heat, I've not struggled with it as much, because I think back in 2022 when we had the drought here, it didn't rain from April to August, and it was so hot, and I think it was either that year or 2023 where we had a 40-degree day, and it's 40 degrees easily in my bedroom at night. But I've not been as distressed with it as usual. I think it's just kind of acclimatising to it. I'm dreading, I love the autumn, but I'm dreading the change of season because my body really doesn't cope well with that since I've had sort of bursitis. So I'm just praying that I don't have a relapse, because it was so painful last October. Everything swelled up, and well, there's a video about it anyway. Yeah, this is turning out to be a long ramble. Maybe what I'll do is swap hands because my arm's hurting. Whoops. Drop my water. Go for a bit of an extended walk instead of sitting down. Whoops. Yeah, I was just filming there, and the guy that I recognise with long blonde hair and a dog was approaching and lost control of the camera. Yeah, I thought I might just go for a bit of an extended walk instead of sitting around too much. So this is a wooded part that I've camped in overnight and during the day. It looks as if they're tidying up some of the trees here. There's a lot of dead wood in here. Yeah, I'm worried about insects again, the camping. But the guy assures me that it's all mown where the pitches are. So it's not the same as wild camping in a field like I did a year ago. It was a lot of fun, but that was horrible, just waking up to a stomach covered in ticks. That was awful. I really thought I was going to die. I mean, maybe I did get Lyme disease, and that was why I was so ill a couple of months later. Don't know. Should have probably gone to the hospital, but I can't. That would just made me worse. I couldn't have dealt with that at all. So I got them out as quickly as I possibly could and knew what to do. Anyway. Yeah, I'm hoping to do some wild camping again at some point, but for the purposes of the fact I'm studying this trip in Wales, it's better on a campsite. Probably even better in a building, but you know, I like to challenge myself. And I think it'll just be, I can't wait just to sleep in my tent again. And I always sleep so well, and at least on a campsite you're not sort of worried as much about other people and stuff. So touch wood, he says that it's quiet at that time of year. So anyway, I'm gonna go. Somebody else behind me. Thanks for watching, liking, and yeah, new subscribers are trickling onto the channel, which I appreciate very much, so thank you. And I shall talk to you again soon. Bye. Back again, what a surprise. No, I forgot to make a really important link in my the journey I was talking about with buildings in my life. I mentioned about that awful meditation that I did that triggered my OCD with being enclosed inside mud walls. The people that ran that training actually ended up being cowboys. I was only in my early 20s. I was so vulnerable. Such a damaging experience, that. And so not only did that happen, where we were kind of let loose on each other and actually, ended up doing me a lot of damage. But yeah, they just pissed off. No word of explanation, no ending, just very, anyway. What I was saying was, so that visualisation of the mud on the walls, being surrounded by mud or stuff on the walls, kind of, in a funny way, it triggered my OCD, but this kind of, it's also triggered sort of my healing, because maybe I've had to go through this disorder to understand it and heal. But now I'm kind of, with the cob house building, it's making buildings out of mud. So I've got this urge to, I think, comes from working on the allotment. I used to love the feeling of my hands in the cool earth, and I just want to kind of, I want to make things out of mud, be it art or buildings, and explore natural materials. So I've gone from that terrifying visualization to wanting to actually build a home of my own, is the dream, out of cob, which is, clay, straw, aggregate. And they do actually can use manure as a binding agent, instead of, as well as straw, and to kind of shred it up into like plasters and things like that. So it's almost like now I'm embracing that, and the walls are no longer scary, but somewhere, that can be safe again. Somewhere, a place where humans can be healthy and safe in. I'd like to build not only my own home, but a space for survivors to come and just be, and talk and feel connected to nature and each other. And anyway, that was a link that I'd forgot to make earlier. So it's funny when you think about what homes mean to us and buildings mean to us. And this journey's been all about feeling at home in my body as well, through creativity and yoga mainly, and meditation. So and I think the more comfortable I'm feeling in my body, the more able I am to the more I feel at home in my body, the more I'm able to, I don't know, I'm trying to say, build something on the outside. Firm foundation of my own building. That was a line in a poem that I wrote during the pandemic. I want to build a firm foundation of my own building. So I will definitely go now, and thanks for listening. Hope I've given you some food for thought, and speak to you soon. Bye. Hello again. I've just remembered one of the authors of The Hand Sculpted House, Ianto Evans. Haven't pronounced his name correctly, I'm sure. But Ianto Evans. Carol Smiley and Michael, can't remember his surname. But it was a really life-changing book. Bye.